Hi. Hello, welcome back. It's Trade with Ellie with all things trade, travel, investing related. I've been getting so many questions about travel. Can I travel here? Can I do this? What are the rules? What are the regulations? What are the changes? And so I wanted to make this video because this is one of the most asked questions, surprisingly, right? So I have a list, I'm going through it, and I'm getting to your question. So if you have other questions, put it in the description, right? But today I want to address, right, traveling unvaccinated. Okay, so if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. If you're back for another view, if you've been enjoying my content, if it's helped you in any way, thank you so much. Make sure to like, comment on my videos, let me know what you need, let me know how it's helped you. Subscribe to my channel, hit that bell, more importantly, so that you can get updated information for as soon as I drop these videos. So back to my video, right? Traveling unvaccinated. So can you travel unvaccinated? The simple answer to that question is yes, you can, right? Can it be to anywhere, any country, any city? No, right? With all these rules and regulations, with all these changes to COVID, with Omicron, and all these things that are happening, that can change at any moment, and it can change depending on your status. Meaning, if you are a citizen or resident to a certain country, those rules and regulations can vary, right? So, for example, places like UK have stricter travel regulations. US has strict regulations as well now too, that internationals coming in, right, must be fully vaccinated. Now, example, Ghana recently changed their regulations, and they're also requiring their citizens to be fully vaccinated, right? So if you're not, and you're a Ghana citizen or resident, when you land in the airport, they are pretty much requiring you to, get vaccinated. Now, the US is not enforcing that, at least not at this time. However, if you are a U.S. citizen coming back into the U.S., you can come in, you would just have to quarantine. So that alone shows you the difference, right? The variations in how much you can travel, where you can go, or what that looks like going or even returning. Because some places are still requiring for you to quarantine regardless of vaccination status. Some places are, not checking for vaccination, only for that negative COVID test, which everyone is at this point. However, some places are requiring that vaccination card, right? And Ghana is at the top of that list, right? Recently just announced that about a week and a half ago that they were added. I did the video on it. Check that out as well. For information updates if you're traveling to Ghana. So back to the question, right? Can you travel as an unvaccinated individual? You can. Now, there are certain things that you need to look for or understand when you are looking to travel, right? Traveling is it's like a privilege at this point, right? First of all, it pretty much always has been because of cost. Now, can you keep costs down? Yes. But with COVID, right, it's making things more costly because what happens now is some countries are requiring you to pay for negative tests on arrival. Sometimes you will have to test numerous times while you're there, right? And of course, you have to get that negative test to return home to get on that flight. So that cost of paying for that COVID test can really, be costly depending where you are, depending, how fast that return is. Because remember, they have changed from that about 72-hour gate to 1 day, right? 24 hours. So you need to also make sure that you are getting tested at reliable places. So with that being said, when it comes to traveling and to the destinations that you want to go to, you need to really do some research. You need to go to Google and literally put in the country that you want to go and just ask those questions, right? And they should be leading you back to the CDC. Now, the CDC will, inform you and let you know that you should be traveling, as a vaccinated individual, or you must, right? Now, not every country is enforcing that, but of course, right, safety is important. And, the way everything is working, that is what the CDC is letting you know, right? That you should only be traveling if you're vaccinated. Does it mean that you have to only be vaccinated to travel? Currently, no, right? So CDC will give you some great information and great updates. If you go to the embassy website for that country, they will give you information based on your citizenship or residency status. So a lot of the information I will be sharing is based off of a US citizen, US passport holder, because a lot of places, right, have different regulations depending on the country you're from, based off of how many people in that country are vaccinated, right? Which is basically the vaccination population of that country, or based off of the level. So if you're on the CDC website, you might see a level of 1 to 4, 4 being the highest, meaning like you shouldn't travel, and 1 being pretty low. So they do have that for all types of travel alerts, whether it's something more of like a safety issue, on different levels, right? Going from theft, natural disasters, terrorism, a lot of different things, right? And COVID is one of those things. So they will list it for you and tell you the level of safety that it is. So they will say, if it's a level 4, level 3, maybe even sometimes a 2, they'll recommend that you shouldn't travel. But because of COVID, right, it's really on the CDC just about everywhere that you shouldn't. Now, if you will, these are the things that you can do, or these are the things you must follow. So that is something that's really important to know. So CDC website, the embassy of the country, and also the travel state government site will give you some of these informations. I will put a couple of links in the description below to help you navigate or to do some of your searches within sites, government sites, that can be a little bit more helpful to help you get those right answers a lot faster. And of course, if you know people who have just gone and stuff like that, or live there and can give you firsthand experience and updates as well, that may be super, super helpful, because now there is a difference between being able to travel, being able to enter the country, right? So when we say traveling, I mean entering the country, right? There's a difference between being able to enter the country, one, and a difference between being able to move around freely in a country. So example, right? When I went to Italy, right, Italy was allowing individuals who are unvaccinated to enter the country. However, to enter establishments like the restaurant, the museums, some of their ancient ruins and different sites, you needed to show either a negative COVID test, or you needed to show that you were vaccinated. Now here in New York, right, which is in the US, right, in New York, to enter a lot of certain establishments at this point, you need to be vaccinated. It doesn't matter if you have a negative test. Now, if you go to another state like Florida or Texas, they're not really checking for that, right? So by cities it's varying, by countries it's varying. So knowing exactly where you're going and keeping up to date with the changes is super, super important. So what I did was I went online and I did a random search of just 3 random countries that popped up into mind, and I wrote down the information just to help you kind of see or understand what travel is looking like, or what they're asking or requesting, right? Because if you're able to travel, right, meaning getting on a flight, which you're showing that negative COVID test result, and they're allowing you to get on the flight, and let's say, whatever else you need to enter the country, you're good, right? And so that negative test is allowing you entry. Now, once you enter, right, depending on the rules and regulations, you may be able to move around freely, entering and exit establishments as you please, or you may have to show a negative test or a vaccine, or you have to show just a vaccine, like in the examples I gave you. So based off of these 3 countries, I'm going to read some of the information that populated up, right, that came up on these websites that I mentioned a little bit earlier, so that you can get an understanding of the language that's being used, and what potentially that travel may look like. So I searched Fiji, right, and I was looking to see what Fiji was requiring, right, if you are able to enter as an unvaccinated individual. So it says Fiji does not require vaccination to enter, so that's great, right? However, it does state that a vaccine is required to move freely in the country. So what does that mean? You may not be able to eat at certain establishments, enter certain establishments without showing that you are fully vaccinated. And that's something too. Some countries will allow you to still travel or move around with, 1 dosage of the Pfizer or Moderna or whatever other countries are giving you, where there's a 2-dose. Some countries are requiring you to be fully, meaning having those 2 doses or having that 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson. Now, you can't just get the dose and leave today. You have to have it, right? Be fully vaccinated and then travel 2 weeks after that day. So you still need to kind of have it spaced out and be aware of when you're going and what these regulations and rules are. So they say that it's with quarantine, right? So Fiji may be requiring you to quarantine, but you're free to travel fully vaccinated if you're fully vaccinated. And transit from travel partner countries that have similar high vax rates. So what does that mean? Basically, if you're fully vaccinated and you come from a country where the vaccination rate in the country is high, right? Places where majority of the people have the vaccination, they feel like it's safer because you are least likely, right? Based off of information that I'm reading, you're least likely to get or spread COVID, right? This is from information I gathered. So now so what does that mean? You can enter Fiji, right? However, you may not be able to do the things that you want to do. So if that's the case, if you're just going to bum it and just kind of have a staycation away from home, then Fiji might be the option for you. But if you actually want to go out and about and do things, then Fiji might not be that option for you if you're unvaccinated, right? So now another place we have is Aruba. So Aruba does not require you to be vaccinated to enter, right? They have no restrictions on intercity or interstate travel. So what does that mean? You will probably be able to move around freely without having to worry if you're vaccinated or not, right? They do not have any quarantine unless you're positive for COVID, right? So unless for some reason or at some point you test positive, they will require you to be quarantined. However, they do have mandatory insurance, right? And that mandatory insurance must include COVID. So a lot of travel insurance does not include COVID. There are certain ones that do. I've done a video or 2 on travel insurance. I will put that in the description below. Check that out. But that is something a lot of countries are leaning towards or doing. So keep that in mind. So therefore, you know, what does that mean? You still do need your negative COVID test to get on that flight to Aruba and to get on that flight to go back where you're going. However, you do not need to be vaccinated to move around. So based off of that information, it sounds like you may not have to, you know, continuously proof of something to move around in Aruba, which can be better for you, right? But then again, rules and regulations are changing all the time, so make sure you are staying up to date till the minute you land there and you are able to assess things for yourself. And last but not least, right, a third country I looked up was Peru. And so Peru does not require quarantine for U.S. citizens, right? So what does that mean? If you come from a different country, right? If you're a passport holder of a different country, you might have to quarantine. So Peru does have curfew, right? And they did not state that you needed to be vaccinated to enter. So that lets you know, right? You can go with the negative COVID test if you're a U.S. citizen and you're coming from the U.S. most likely, right? Because sometimes just being a U.S. citizen holder and coming directly from the U.S. to Peru can also be 2 different things and can put you in 2 different boats. So if you're coming from another country that maybe the alerts are high and they're really worried about, you know, the situation or what you may be bringing, you'll probably have to quarantine. But if you're coming straight from the U.S. or you're a U.S. passport holder, you will not have to quarantine. So Peru seems like a place where you might be a little bit open to move about and, you know, enjoy your trip. Now, with all that being said, right, it's still important that you are following rules and regulations, that you are doing your best, your utmost best, especially when you're traveling, because you're coming into contact with maybe more people than when you're home, depending if you work from home or what your day-to-day is like. But just, you know, to not spread your germs and not to catch other people's germs, right? So wearing a mask, social distancing, right? So regardless of your status, if you choose to travel, be safe and enjoy yourself, right? Remember, a lot of countries rely on tourism, right? A lot of people rely on tourism, and we're at a weird time right now in society, financially, you know, health-wise, and stuff like that, and just so many things are happening at the same time. So if you have the opportunity to still travel and it's something you want to do and you can afford to do it and you can do it safely, you know, I hope you enjoy yourself and you share your experiences with us, so that those of us who are looking to go, who want to, you know, still see and experience the world, who can do that, are able to do it with the most current knowledge and information, so that we can also be safe and be prepared, because travel is becoming a hassle. It's becoming frustrating. You know, I went to the airport recently and I was just like, this doesn't seem fun anymore, right? Because there's just so much happening and it's changing so quick. And so the more we know and the more we're able to share this information with each other, it's gonna just make it easier for us to all have a good time, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter how the chaos is, no matter what's happening, it is important for us to still find joy in life and living. And if that's through travel, you know, enjoy it. So thank you all for tuning in. It's Trade with Ellie. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video.